Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about the product and quotient rule. Actually, we're going to be saving the quotient rule for tomorrow's activity, but today we're going to talk about the product rule with regards to derivatives. Now, first off, what is the product rule? Well, with regards to derivatives. The product rule tells us how to differentiate the product of two functions. They can be the same functions, they can be different functions, as long as they are functions. So the product rule is essentially the function if we have these two functions, function f times function g, and we're trying to find the derivative of that. So it's f times g prime. And that would be equal to the function f times the function g, or the derivative of g, plus the derivative of function f times function g. So let's put this in an example, just to kind of get things moving and flowing. So let's take something like the derivative of this one of cosine x times sine of x. Now, obviously, in this case, our cosine x would be function f, and our sine of x would be function g. So if we use the same equation, where you have f times g prime plus f prime times g, we can write it as essentially cosine x times sine of x prime plus cosine x prime times sine of x. So, and then if we use our basic derivatives, we know that cosine x would stay the same, but sine of x would turn into cosine x. We know that the derivative of cosine x would actually turn into negative sine x, and sine of x would just drop down and become sine of x. Now that we've done all that, we can kind of combine our like terms. Cosine x times cosine x is going to be, obviously, cosine squared x. Negative sine x times sine x would be sine x squared with a negative in front. And that's how we apply the product rule. Now, why does this work? Well, typically when we multiply two functions like f of x and g of x, the resulting area we get is this new broader area called fg, which is the reason why we kind of get square units in the start. Anyways, so here's another way to look at the product rule. So here's another version of it, where we have the derivative of x times uv, and uv being our two functions. So essentially, you can distribute this and get something like u times the derivative of v plus v times the derivative of u. So what I want to show you is that this is not just the product of two derivatives, right? It's not just a product of it. Sometimes you can memorize this as the derivative times uv, which is just u dv plus v du. And that's a very easy way to kind of do it as well. Now I've shown you in three different forms how to apply the product rule. Let's look at another example. All right, here we have two functions. We have x squared plus 3 times 2x to the power 3 plus 5x. Now, your first instinct might be like, hey, I really want to just multiply that all together, and just distribute all that stuff. You can do that. So obviously, if we just combine like terms, we will get 2x power 5 plus 5x cubed plus 6x cubed plus 15x if you are foiling or using box method with your multiplication. If you combine your like terms, we would just get 2x to the 5th plus 11x cubed plus 15x. Now, if we take the derivative of that, well, it would just be using applying the power rule that we've learned in previous chapters. We will get 10x to the 4th plus 33x squared plus 15. So that's one way of doing this. But notice how we didn't really apply the product rule here. Let's try to apply it in a different way. So we're going to take the same thing, only we're going to kind of write it out. So we have the first function, which is the f, times the second function, which would be our g prime. Notice how the second function is the derivative of g plus the derivative of the first function, which is f, times g. So, and if we combine all those together, if we multiply that all, we should get something like this. And then if you combine all those terms together, you'll notice you get the same equation. So essentially, you'll get the same thing. But the product rule is a little bit easier to kind of, I can't say it sometimes. I don't know how to say the word. I'm always bad at saying it. Like putting into compartments, so that way it's easier to solve each section individually. So, so today, what I wanted to do was give you guys some practice at this. So what I have for you is this product rule power share. In the directions, you're going to create your own product rule problem, solve it, then trade problems with another student and solve each other's problem utilizing the product rule. So what you're going to do is you are going to create 5 problems that you think might be fun that you want to give to other people. You can make some easier, you can make some harder. Just remember that other people are going to have to solve these, including yourself, because once you make your 5 problems, you're going to work out those problems utilizing the product rule on the back here. So you should have an answer to all 5 of your problems. Then what you're going to do is you're going to find another partner, and you are going to trade problems with that partner. You should write down their name so that way you kind of know who you were trading with. So you guys will exchange problems, and both of you will work on each other's problems. Now, the partner should also have answers to theirs. Now, at the end of that, once you guys have both solved each other's problems, you will check each other's, because there's a possibility that your partner might have done their problem incorrectly. So that's why it's good to check each other. Once you guys have agreed on an answer, you will then find another partner. And you should do this about 5 times during this class. If you have any questions, I'm here to help.